Hi, it's Lindsey Bennett with PA Football News, and today we're here with Jack Fox. He's a local legend and a great coach from the Towanda area. So, Jack, when did you move to Towanda and where did you come from?
We moved to Towanda in 1961, and my wife and I came from the same high school, Union Joint High School in a small town called Reimersburg. That's in Clarion County in western Pennsylvania. And she went to nursing school in Presbyterian Hospital in Pittsburgh, and I went to Clarion State University, which was commuting distance from my home.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's so from both of us are from Western PA because we went to high school together.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you were in high school, did you play football?
Yes, I played 4 years of football and 3 years of basketball and intramural track. Yeah.
Did you go on to play football after high school, or was that the end of the?
No, I went to Clarion State University, and that's where I played football and was a starting halfback my sophomore year, and was a 2-year letterman. I thought I should have selfishly had 3 letters, but based on the number of quarters that you play, and I missed it by 1 quarter, or I would have had 3 letters in football. But that's neither here nor there. That's just within my own head. So.
Now, did you play any other intramural sports or any other sports in college?
No.
And after you graduated college, you became a teacher, obviously. So did you teach down there for a while before you guys moved up here?
My first teaching job was at Du Bois High School, and that was a fill-in position for a gentleman in the history department, or excuse me, in the English department, that took a sabbatical leave, and I had been drafted into the Army, and but I didn't have to leave for 1 year, so having the 1-year teaching position fit perfectly into my plans, and I was drafted, but I was able to get into the Army Reserves, and so I went into the Army Reserves at the behest of one of the football coaches at Du Bois and driver ed teacher, Joe Federici, and a really nice guy. And he happened to be the captain of the reserve unit there in Du Bois, and he encouraged me to go that way. So I went in for my into the reserves for my 6 months, came back out, and that was at mid-semesters. And as it would be, I picked up a half-year sabbatical job at Clarion High School, and again, that fit perfectly into my plans. Then I looked for a job because job postings were always at the college, and I looked at on the board, and there was Towanda, social studies teacher, assistant football coach. I had to look on a map to find out where Towanda was because I had never heard of it. And I came out and interviewed for the job, and was fortunate enough to be hired the night of the interview.
So then when you went home, you had your wife, And how'd you break the news to her? Hey, honey, we're moving to Towanda. How'd that go?
She happened to be with me. She wasn't at the interview, but she happened to be with me because going from Reimersburg to Towanda, we didn't have the interstate at that time, and so it was a
6 or 7 hour drive.
It was
probably
about a 6 hour drive,
yeah.
or 4, somewhere there. It was a long night because they interviewed me at night, and I signed a contract around 9:00, 9:30 that evening.
Holy.
And so it was 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning when we got back.
You guys must have been dragging when you got back in town.
We were dragging, yes.
But you had a big future in front of you. So when you had plenty of time to talk it over on your way back to Reimersburg. And how did the conversation? Yeah, Reimersburg.
Right.
How did your conversation go when you were on your way back between you and your wife?
I think we were excited about it because it was going to be a permanent move.
Mm-hmm.
And I was excited to land the coaching job and a social studies job. And as it turned out, my first head coach was a guy who became, in the football world, rather famous. His name was Joe Moore, and Joe had come from, I believe it was Richfield Springs in New York, and he came to Towanda, and he was a climber. I was not, and he was here 2 years, and I had the good fortune of coaching with Joe Moore. He went from Towanda to McDowell High School in Erie, from McDowell High School to Upper St. Clair in Pittsburgh, and then from Upper St. Clair to Pitt.
Mm.
And he coached under both Jackie Sherrill and Faze Fazio, as well as who was the other, Jackie Sherrill, and another famous coach. I slips my mind at the present moment. And today he has 50 some football players from both Pitt and Notre Dame who are in they were All-Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And a number of those became Hall of Famers.
College Hall of Famers?
No, NFL Hall of Famers.
Wow.
NFL Hall of Famers. Joe then went from Pitt to Temple, and he coached there under Foz Fazio, and they had a so-so season, and they both got fired. So that's when he went to Notre Dame. The coach at Notre Dame, Lou Holtz, knew Jackie Sherrill very well, who was in, I believe, Texas. And he called Coach Sherrill and asked him, or told him, I need an offensive coordinator, do you have recommendations? And he says, yes, Joe Moore. He's the best coach in the country if you can get him. And so Joe had a very high reputation. And Joe went to Notre Dame University and coached with Lou Holtz for 7 years. And after that, I think he retired, and he did some scouting and some work for the Baltimore Colts, and then he did a little bit of high school coaching, and then he retired altogether.
Mm-hmm.
He was a tremendous coach. It was a no-nonsense coach. He was all about X's and O's. Don't talk to him about social issues because he didn't want to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
And today there is an award in the college ranks called the Joe Moore Offensive Lineman, not lineman, but
Mm-hmm.
lineman award. It is, you can look it up. The Joe Moore Award.
Mm-hmm.
It is on a platform. I imagine it's about that wide and about that high. It has bronze figures of 2 tackles, 2 guards, and a center. And inscribed on it is the offensive lineman award, and given to the best offensive linemen in the college ranks for that year.
Wow.
Alabama got it the first year. I know that Michigan has won it, and I haven't followed it since then, but you could look it up anytime and just Google Joe Moore Football Award, and it tells you everything you know. It will also tell you his background, his playing days in high school. If memory serves me, he was an all-state halfback in high school, out of the WPIAL.
Yep.
In the Pittsburgh area, and that's tough football.
Mm-hmm.
That's where Joe Montana and
Jim Kelly.
Jim Kelly,
Tony Dorsett.
Jim Kelly came from high school 9 miles from mine, and he was supposed to go to, well, Joe Paterno wanted him to come there, and Joe told him, you're going to be a linebacker, and Kelly said, no, I'm a quarterback. So Kelly turned Penn State down and went to Miami, and from there,
The rest is history.
the rest is history. But Joe Moore was a fantastic coach. When I came here, the year before we came, Joe and I came at the same time, and the year before, Towanda was 0-10. And with a little team discipline, and he was a disciplinarian, and I might say so was his cohort. Joe took the team to 5-4 as first year, and we also had a winning season the second year, and that's when he then moved to McDowell High School in Erie. From there, I've already mentioned where he traveled to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when you coached with him, did you get a lot of the traits that you had as a coach coming through the ranks and the years from that guy, or did you already have them previously from your high school coaches and college coaches?
I think probably it was a combination. I had good high school coaches, My last 2 years in high school, uh, the high school coach was from Notre Dame, and his name was Bill Powers, and uh, we always looked at him as punchy because he had a bulldog face, and he liked to play around with us and give us 6-inch punches from here, and which just about knocked you over. And so we had a game going, but I think it was a combination and the discipline from college football. But to me, the discipline was always there because I loved sports. I loved any kind of sports, and the football field in high school sat just on the other side of the fence, chain link fence, from my parents' property. So
it was like a field of dreams to you. You'd look out there and go, one day I'm going to be playing on that, huh?
I was there in my childhood. I was there every day because the baseball field was there, the football field was where the outfield was, and the playground was there, the clay basketball court was there, and the clay tennis courts were there. So if I wasn't working at a job mowing grass or doing some kind of odd job around town,
That's where you were found, huh?
that's where my mother and father could find me. Yeah, that's she always knew where I was, and that always kept me, should we say, out of trouble. Not that I ever was in any trouble, but that probably helped to keep me out of any trouble. Yeah.
What year did you graduate high school?
1955. 1955. 1955, yeah.
So when you guys moved to Towanda, when you rolled into town, like, you needed a place to live and all that stuff that comes along with moving to a new place, like, how did that go? And were you guys overwhelmed, or were you like, wow, this is a great place to grow up and raise kids? And
No, I wasn't overwhelmed, but we really liked the town. And as I drove into town from down York Avenue, it was a very, very pretty avenue because there were more big trees there, and it was sort of like going through a tunnel of trees. It was very pretty, and we liked the layout of the town, and at that time, the high school was a part of what is now the middle school.
Yep.
The old building was torn down and expanded into the middle school.
Yep.
That's when they built the new high school up on the hill, and I had a choice by way of the superintendent, Paul Cooper, who called each of us in and said, where do you want to teach? You can stay here and teach in middle school, or you can go up to the high school. And I said, I want to go up on the hill. And that's where I then spent the last 32 years of my teaching. Yeah.
Now, being a football coach in high school, you impact a lot of young men. When you look back at your days of coaching, do you have some of the things that occurred in practices and games that pop into your head, and or is it all just one big mix of like?
No, that happens quite often when I think back and talking to my wife or talking to Coach Quigg or Reverend Geiger, and so forth. Uh, we we had some great players.
Mm-hmm.
We really did. We had a tight end. His name was Big Bob Thompson. We called him Big Bob because he was like 6'7". He played tight end for us, and a very intelligent young man. And he went to the University of Pennsylvania, played 4 years there. To my knowledge, he got his MBA, and he was drafted by the the Dallas Cowboys. And when it came time to cut the number on the squad, the Cowboys had to decide between another end named Too Tall Jones or Bob Thompson. So they cut Bob Thompson, and Too Tall Jones is now in the Football Hall of Fame. But Bob then went and played 5 years in the World Football League. And after that, he took his MBA and went into the business world. And very, very sharp. They had a great family because we had all the Thompson boys play football for us.
Yep.
And I had a great halfback. I had a lot of great halfbacks. But one, help me out, Pearl.
Honey, I don't know who you're referring to.
He went to Penn State. He got a full scholarship
Wow.
at Penn State.
Glenn Cole.
Say it again.
Glenn Cole.
Yeah, Glenn Cole. His name was Glenn Cole, and he came from up in New York State. He came with a coach, Bruce Campbell, who became one of the head coaches here that I coached for. And he was playing 8-man football up there, and Coach Campbell said the only way he's ever going to get noticed is to get him into 11-man football. And so he brought him with him, and he lived with the Blakely family and played his football, and then eventually. And yeah, he was fast. He was tough. He was chiseled, very muscular, a lot of speed, and I don't remember the record, but he had a couple other halfbacks behind him and a fullback, and we had a real good season. And today he's up in New York State somewhere. Working, and but yeah, Dale Watkins was another really fine halfback who was fast, had those nice swivel hips, and he was here one time, then here the next time, as far as trying to tackle him.
Mm-hmm.
And he went to Westchester University and played 4 years there. With Joe Wheeler. I'm just remembering some of the names.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Wheeler, whom everybody knows in the Towanda area as Wheeler's Greenhouse,
Yep.
which eventually became Shore Sisters. And he was a starting guard at Westchester. I think it was his sophomore year, but don't quote me on that. But he was a tremendous football player for us. And there were others. I'm trying to think. Well, probably as far as the community is concerned, the greatest one was Steve Casey, and he played. The head coach at that time was Jack Young, and so Steve undoubtedly was the best football player that I ever saw and that I ever coached. He was a quarterback, and he had the mechanics right off. And the old adage is, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And he was an easy kid to coach, extremely talented, full of athletic ability. I think he averaged 20 points a game on the basketball team. He can go on the golf course even today, and he can shoot in the low to mid 80s, and he just picks up a golf club, and I mean, not that he's a golfer because he isn't, you know.
But he's an athlete, and an athlete can pick up stuff and just do stuff that normal people can't. Yeah. All
natural. I mean, I played the back nine once, and it was 120. Yeah, but then he was voted, and I don't know who did the voting. I think it was coaches, it could have been the public. I don't know, but he was voted the most outstanding athlete in the past 50 years, coming from the northern tier and southern New York. So it was great, and I see him then he went to Arizona. Well, he went to Virginia Tech. Forgive me. He got a full scholarship. First of all, he went to Massanutten Prep in Blacksburg, Virginia. Got his study skills up, and Virginia Tech gave him a full ride, and he was starting quarterback at Virginia Tech. And his senior year, he took them to the Peach Bowl, and the opposing quarterback was Jim Kelly.
Oh yeah.
And they lost in the Peach Bowl, but I think the score was 20-14, but I'm not certain of that. But Steve was undoubtedly the best that I ever coached anyways, and the surrounding area, I think, supported that thought, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And I see him almost every Friday, because he's on Zoom. We have a Bible study. Reverend Lloyd Vaughn and myself here, and 3 other coaches out in Arizona. We Zoom for about an hour and a half.
Oh yeah.
On every Friday, and we chit chat, you know, along with other good things, the Bible, and so every time we go to Arizona, because we have family out there, we have 2 daughters out there. He and I always we get together,
mm-hmm.
and we either have breakfast or we have lunch together.
That's awesome.
So yeah, he and I are very close. I call him my unofficially adopted son because that's what he means to me. Seriously,
That's awesome.
that's what he means to me,
Yeah.
and that's he's sort of like the son that I never had.
Yep.
But I had 3 great daughters,
Mm-hmm.
and I wouldn't trade them for love nor money.
Yep.
So he was, and there's others in it that I can't think of right now, but
Mm-hmm.
it's those are some of the ones that come to mind
Yeah.
real quick. And
Now, when you coached with Jack Young, how did you and Jack Young get along? Great.
oh,
Were you guys
fantastic.
great friends?
Oh yeah. He left quick do what he was doing. He left me do what I was doing.
He wasn't a micromanager. He said,
No.
"I'm hiring you to coach. You go coach."
That's exactly right. You hired me to coach, and that's what he left me do and left quick to do. And he would wonder, most of the time he stood in the middle of the football field. And quickly he was the lineman at one end, and I was the backs at the other end. And then when we came together, why, then he was boss, and
Yep.
but we made corrections too as needed.
Yep.
On a particular person.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing I will say about Steve Casey. I never had to say your mechanics are wrong. His mechanics were never wrong.
Yep.
And
That must kind of spoil you to coach a kid like that.
oh yeah, because
It's like driving a Lamborghini and then getting into a Ford Escort.
something of that sort. Something of that sort. Yeah. But it was fantastic. Jack Young was very easy, very, very easy to coach for.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, my first coach was Joe Moore. The second coach was from Penn State. His name was Wayne Burfield. And Wayne was a linebacker at Penn State. He still holds the record at Penn State for the return, for the longest return of an intercepted pass. He intercepted the ball on the 5-yard line as a linebacker and ran it back for a touchdown. And that record still stands to my knowledge.
Wow.
He was a fine coach, but he expected the kids to be just as good as he was, and sometimes that didn't measure up.
Didn't pan out so well.
That didn't pan out so well. But, he was a tremendous athlete, and as his record shows,
Mm-hmm.
and he was very very easy to work with, and third head coach, I believe, was Bruce Campbell, who brought Glenn Cole with him.
There must have been quite a turnover of coaches between, when did you say you came here in 61?
61.
And when did Jack Young start coaching here?
Oh, geez.
In the early 70s?
Yeah, somewhere in there. Yeah,
So-
there were 5 head coaches that I coached under.
Wow, that's a short span of time for 5 head coaches to come through.
Yeah, about one every 2.5 years. Yeah. Which,
Like for many different reasons, like Joe Moore, he moved on to bigger, better things, and some of the other guys probably got other coaching jobs. I mean, Towanda's not like the
yeah,
gem on the crown to say, wow, here's where you need to be,
yeah, no. Wayne Burfield went to Binghamton Central High School in New York. And he was linebacker coach there. And then after so many years he got out of that, and he became a head swimming coach.
Oh yeah.
So there was Joe, Bruce, Wayne, Jack Young. Guess we was only 4 head coaches.
John Statura.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did omit one. Coach John Statura, who played at East Stroudsburg. Little guy, about my size, even a little shorter. Just a true gentleman, a really fine football coach. And we hadn't beaten Sayre in years. And we went up to Sayre, and we came home with I think it was an 11-0 win. And the town was so happy, they put on a dinner for us.
Oh yeah.
As memory recalls. So that was the end of Sayre beating us many times.
Yep.
So we started and then we got our share
a little bit.
Yeah, we evened up the score a number of times.
Now look at what Sayre has become.
Sayre is way down.
Way down, and they might not exist for another 3-4 years because they're probably going to get sucked up by Athens. I know a lot of the athletes, because of Waverly is like a stone's throw up the road. A lot of athletes have left Athens and Sayre and go to Waverly.
Right, they have.
And there's not much left in Sayre. I think they're going to consolidate and be part of Athens eventually. And who's to say a lot of these schools aren't going to consolidate eventually, because I think that's where it's headed.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think so. I think that'd be a good move.
I think so too. I think it would make the Northern Tier League a more competitive league, and not just football, but all sports total.
Yeah, that very same thing happened in Western Pennsylvania at the school that I came from. And we became so small that in sports only, we joined together with a school named AC Valley.
Mm-hmm.
And that has worked out great.
Yeah, yep.
That is great. Yeah, it's been good for the athletes.
Yeah. And when you're talking about Sayre being a powerhouse, that was because they had the railroad up there, and a lot of like people came into a railroad town to work, and kind of like the oil business, you know what I mean? And that's why that was such a staple for so long, and now it's kind of died out because the railroad's gone. And
exactly. But they also, football talent-wise, they had a group of kids called the Haggerty Boys. And I think they all played halfback. And they were really fast.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, one of them lives up here in Table Rock.
Yep.
Jim Haggerty.
Yeah.
and he and his wife Felice are good friends of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where if I hunt deer anymore, that's where I go.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, Jim Haggerty is a good friend.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So when you started coaching football, did you coach other sports like right away, or did it take a little bit of time to start coaching? Because I know you coached a couple other sports, didn't you?
No,
You didn't coach basketball?
No, not here.
No. Oh, okay.
No.
I must be thinking of Brannish. I think Brannish coached a couple different sports, didn't he?
I think so. Boy, yeah, he coached football.
Yeah, and wrestling.
And wrestling.
And I think he coached
maybe track, I'm not sure.
Yeah, something else, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think he was did some track
So
coaching.
you were just a football coach then?
Strictly a football coach. Yeah.
That must have been great because that's all you had to think about. Just teaching and football,
Yes.
you know?
But my family and I, we ate a lot of cold suppers, a lot of cold dinners.
So how many years, like when you got to the end of your coaching career, what was the telltale sign to say, I think I've had enough?
Well, it wasn't a matter that I had enough, because I love football and I love sports. And what prompted me more than anything else was family. There was so much time taken away from my family that my family picked up the crumbs of my life.
Yep.
And when our girls were in college, we had 2 at Penn State and 1 at IUP, all at the same time. And that meant going to President's Days or Parents' Days or some particular day that they were celebrating on campus. And my middle daughter, Vicky, she said that she asked one weekend, she said, well, next weekend is I think Parents' Day or President's Day or whatever. And she said, will you be coming down? And Pearl said, yes. And I said, no, I won't be able to. She said, well, Dad, you never come anyways. And
So that kind of pulled your heartstrings a little bit.
that touched my heart very deeply. And from then I told Coach Young that, look, when there's things going on at IUP or at Penn State, and we have a game on a Saturday, I'm sorry, but I won't be there on the sidelines. And I think that was in I think that was in my last 3 years of coaching. And I told Coach Young that I said, I'm not stopping coaching. I just don't want paid.
Mm-hmm.
So my last 3 years of coaching football,
You were a volunteer coach.
I was volunteer varsity assistant or the varsity backfield coach. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that was fine. That was fine.
Mm-hmm.
It all worked out fine. But I got to go to things that my daughters, were involved with, and so forth. So, family was a big part of that, of my decision, and it all worked out fine. So,
How did that conversation go with Jack Young when you said, hey, I got to start prioritizing my family a little more and less about football? How did he take that?
That was no problem.
He understood 100%, and he probably admired you and said, man, I wish I could do that as well.
Well, he had a family of his own.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but it was not problematic.
Yeah.
Okay. We had no issues over it, and so but at the end of 22 years, I just felt that it was time for me to step aside and let somebody else in there. And,
Now, what year did you quit coaching football?
I think it was 1983. I think it was 83. Coach Quigley stayed on 10 more years.
Yep.
Or no, 8 more years. He got 30 years in. I got 22 years in.
Now, from the beginning when you started coaching football until when you gave it up, like how do you think the kids had changed in that amount of time, them 22 years? You know how society changes, like the kids today, if you compare them to kids 20 years ago, I mean, it's not really much of a comparison in some aspects.
Right. I personally, I didn't see, for me, I didn't see a lot of change there.
Mm-hmm.
Either in the classroom or out of the classroom. Because I think in the classroom, they looked at you not only as a teacher, but as a coach standing in front of the class, and they respected that.
Mm-hmm.
And
a lot of the kids that had you as a coach, and some even as a teacher, looked at you as a mentor, and took some of the qualities that you were given to them on it for the rest of their life.
I hope so. I hope so. At least on occasion, I hear someone, as we talk, and there's a lot of former athletes in and around Towanda
Yeah.
that get into a conversation and they have nice things to say,
Mm-hmm.
and that's always good to hear. It's heartwarming,
Yeah.
and you know that you've done something right.
You made an impact on certain lots of lives, whether they come out and tell you or not. And I told Coach Quigg the same thing. Like, he's impacted me a great deal, and I'm sure you had the same effect on lots and lots of people that have come in contact with you through the years.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. With many of them, when you see them, if you haven't seen them for a while, it's always, it's not a handshake.
Yeah.
It's a hug.
Yep.
And to me, that tells you something.
Absolutely.
It tells you something. And I thoroughly enjoyed the kids that I worked with, and hopefully influenced their lives in a positive way. And they had, I think they had respect for me both as a teacher and as a coach. And so those things still sit in my heart, and they're important to me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's my life.
Yeah.
And that's what my family grew up with. My wife was as much part of it as anything else. And as I said, though, they had a tendency to pick up the crumbs because they got the leftovers. Whatever time I had left over went to them.
Yep.
But I didn't have a lot of time left over.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
I was involved with other people's kids.
Yep.
And so.
And that's like a lot of people watching this that may not have ever played football or coached football. I don't think a lot of them understand how much time is invested in coaching and being a player. Like, there's a lot of time that's invested. And the funny thing about it is you figure like the practices, the rides to practice, travel to the game, all that stuff is that's 90% of the football life. The actual playing of the game of football is such a slim piece of the pie.
Yeah.
It's so funny when you break it down like that. You spend 93% of your time preparing and 7% to play.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yes. I forgot what I was going to say, but
Like if you were investing money and I said,
So,
you give me $93, I'm going to give you $7. I mean, that's not a.
when you consider that during the football season, we either played Friday night or we were scouting someplace Friday night. So Friday night was gone. Saturday afternoon, we were either playing or scouting. Sunday night was, for some of the coaches, not all of them, we had our coaches meeting.
Yep, getting the game plan around for next week.
Game plan, reviewing film.
This is funny. Back in your day, you had reel to reel, right?
That's what we started out with. Yes.
That must have been.
Yeah.
You didn't know any different, but when you look back from where you are today, it must have been really funny. It's kind of like the reel to reel audio.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it was 16 millimeter, reel to reel, and you had to be careful stopping and reversing and then going forward because the film would break, and then you'd have to splice the film, and it took much longer to go through a film. But yeah.
And when you look at the way technology has changed from when you were in your infancy of coaching to today, like it's just mind-boggling how far it has come.
It is. When because depending on the high school, I would say in the bigger high schools, they have a little computer and players can back that up and look at what they did and what they did right and what they did wrong.
Yep.
And you see it on Saturday afternoon games where one of the linemen is looking at a little pad and, he's reviewing what he just did or did not do. And
how he got beat on that play and how he can prevent it from the next time they get on the field,
Exactly.
And it's amazing how technology has changed the sport, all sports really, but football is really funny how over the last 15 to 20 years it's really changed dramatically.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's for the better because it puts a better product on the field. But
yeah,
coming from the reel to reel days, it must be really ironic and funny to see how far it has come.
Yeah, because back in the earlier days, if you have 3 kids that are fairly equal and they're vying for a halfback spot, what are you basing your analysis on in choosing that particular player over 2 others? Is it speed? Is it hard-nosed running?
Yeah, what's your criteria to say this guy is better than these other 2 guys,
Yeah.
I got a question about the reel to reel, like the video cameras they used back then. What were they like to do the reel to reel videos?
Well, our man who did it for us for years and years, his name was Gordon Davis, and he lived in Monroe. And everywhere we went, he went, and he took the film.
Mm-hmm.
And then he got it developed, and they came in the big round cans.
Yeah.
And we got to the point one time where coaches from different high schools, they finally figured out, hey, why don't we trade films? You have a film of Muncie, I have a film of Sayre. You want to trade? Yeah. So somebody run a film down to Muncie or somebody run a film up to Sayre or run it, whatever it was,
Yeah.
We were running back and forth with films for a while.
And that happened right up until the mid to late 90s.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't film no more, it was a DVD.
DVDs. Yeah.
But now it's all just instantaneous. You can give somebody the code to your huddle and boom, they got the film.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable, really. But the camera, the guy that filmed your games, like Was he up in the booth and he set up this big elaborate camera? 'Cause I'm sure he wasn't on the sideline with it on his shoulder.
He was up in the booth.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was up in the booth.
And it was kind of like a movie theater probably. He had a big tripod with a great big giant camera on it.
As far as I know. All I know is he took our films and got them produced.
Today I film with a phone. It's unbelievable, the technology, you know. Who would ever thought of that 15, 20 years ago?
Exactly. And I don't even have one of those things.
And that's smart.
Yeah. My wife has one and I use hers. I don't.
Yeah.
This is my baby.
Yep.
And so, yeah. Everything I want is on that computer.
So when you retired, from what year did you retire as a teacher and got out of the game altogether?
I think it was 1992. And at that time, I had a couple of, as they say, irons in the fire. And one of those irons happened to be working with Lackawanna College. And which was initially basically in the now Progress Authority building.
Mm-hmm.
But I interviewed for a job with Lackawanna as a advisor counselor. I did recruiting. I went to the high schools. I got to know all the guidance counselors, and I would talk to kids that she might pull out of class or during a study hall period. They would come to the office and we'd go off into another office and sit, and I would explain to them what we had to offer. And then I would advise and counsel students in the evening, because I worked in the evening because we had evening classes. But I worked for Lackawanna for 13 years.
Wow.
And the time that we spent in the Progress Authority building, and Nancy Huey and I were in on the ground floor of opening up Lackawanna College, along with the director, Joyce Carrick. And Nancy and I worked together, I think maybe like 10 years, I'm not sure. But she was the secretary, and there were a couple other girls ahead of her who were secretaries too, but then they left and went elsewhere. But that was for me a dream job, because I got to go into the high schools. I got to meet kids, and I love teenagers, I still do. And I got to talk to them about their future plans, and what they could do. They could get a 2-year degree with us and then transfer into a 4-year degree elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Because Lackawanna had articulation agreements with every college, all 14 Pennsylvania university schools, as well as Penn State and Temple. And that still holds.
Mm-hmm.
And it may have more even now.
Yeah.
So it's a great opportunity. They have since moved out of Progress Authority, and they bought and renovated the old South Towanda grade school.
Yep.
And so 13 years with them, and then I decided it was time for me to
You rode off into the sunset.
ride off into sunset. Which, by the way, I did have a horse. Yeah, I had more than one horse. Because I got into the show business of horses.
Oh yeah.
And I had a trail horse, a riding horse that for my own pleasure, and kept it out on Plank Road where we used to live at another lady's place. But I raised 3 or 4 foals and showed them on the circuit, the quarter horse circuit. And I had a Palomino that I raised from a foal, and she was just a beautiful Palomino with white flaxen tail and mane, 4 white socks and a white blaze on her forehead. And you go to different shows and you earn, if you win first, second, third, or fourth, you get so many points. And I qualified her, I should say, she qualified for the World Palomino Horse Show in Tulsa, Oklahoma. But to get there meant $3,000. And I didn't have $3,000 to go to Tulsa. I had the horse trailer, I had the truck, but I didn't have $3,000 to go. So I took her down to a big show in Lewisburg. It was a double judge, where you had 2 judges in the ring at the same time, and one judge is judging you for, they give you so many points. This judge is judging you separately, and he sees it differently. So, there was, I went down there with the idea that if I was selling her, and if somebody, because I put a sign up that she was for sale on my trailer, and I had a lot of people coming by and asking to see the pedigree, which was a very good pedigree, and how much I wanted, and so forth. And I told them, well, if you want to buy her, you better get in line, because there's a lot of asking. And so one gentleman there, I come by and he said, what do you want for her? I said, $2,500. And he says, okay. He says, I'll give you the down payment before we leave the fairgrounds, and I'll be up. He lived in Lidditz, PA. He said, I'll be up in 2 weeks and pick her up. And so he came up in 2 weeks and picked her up, and
You were out of the horse business.
I was out of the horse business.
How long were you in the horse business for, and how did you get started doing that?
I was always, even as a kid, I had a friend who had a horse, and we would ride bareback out across he lived on a little farmette, and we'd ride bareback out across the open field, just holding on to the mane.
Yeah, yep.
And I just loved horses. And to this day, I love horses. So in what was it, 89, I found a riding horse out in the back road to Elmira. What is it?
14.
Or what's that? Where was that Critch's farm?
Critches,
Critch Farm,
North Orwell.
North Orwell.
Oh,
Yeah, out of North Orwell. And when I looked at her, he sold her to me for $500, and they had tried to breed her. She was 9 years old. They had tried to breed her to their champion stallion, whose father and great grandfather were both world champion halter horses.
Wow.
I have their pictures downstairs in my basement. So he sold it to me, assuming she was not bred. So I brought her home, and I would try to ride her after school, and she didn't want to go away from the barn. And so I thought, did I buy a barn sour horse?
No, you bought a pregnant one, huh?
I bought a pregnant one, not knowing it. And
So you got a 2-for-1 sale.
so one day, yeah, and she didn't show very well that she was pregnant. So one day I'm on cafeteria duty at high school, and I had her at Jane Farr's farm out there on Plank Road. And I had the farrier coming that day to reshoe her. And Jim Farr was out at the barn because they had horses too. And Jane called to the high school, and somebody ran over to the cafeteria and said, Jane Farr just called and said, the farrier's at the farm, and he doesn't want to shoe your horse because he thinks she's going to have a baby. I said, not my horse, she's not pregnant. And
surprise!
About a half hour later, there was another call came, and somebody came over to the cafeteria and said, Jane Farr called and said, your horse is having the baby. The hooves are halfway out. And I said to Mr. Prettyman, I said, hey, I have an emergency here. I have a horse, and she's having a baby right now. I said, I have to go. He says, you go. I'll take care of the cafeteria, and I'll take care of your next class period. So I had over an hour to play with. So I went out. There was a little foal. I raised her for 6 months, and some woman from Massachusetts found out that I had a red roan or blue roan colored horse, and she, long story short, she called me. She said, what do you want for it? I said, $500. That was the breeding fee. She came down, she picked it up. So I called Ed Cridge, where I bought the mare, and I said, Ed, could I breed my mare back to your stallion? Yeah. I said, how much? He says, $500. So we made those arrangements, and 9 months later, I got a little stallion, and he was a red roan, which is a reddish colored coat, but he had 4 white socks. He had a white blaze, black mane, black tail. It was one of the type of horse that I pictured as a kid. And so I raised him, and I showed him on the quarter horse circuit, and did quite well, if I may say so. Won a lot of ribbons with him. Won first place with him against older horses up at Horseheads. Won in a big show up there, and I was going against older horses, and he was a yearling. And when the show was over, at least our part, I was walking out of the show ring, and I heard the judge say to the ring steward, that's because what he did, he selected me first. He says, I overheard him say, that's the first time in my life that I ever did that. And I got close enough to him, and you're not supposed to talk to the judges, but I couldn't hesitate, I couldn't hold myself. I said, what was that, sir, that you just said? He said, I'd never before picked a yearling over aged horses for first place. And so I come home with that nice red, blue, and yellow ribbon with a big medallion in the center. I have it upstairs. The rest of the ribbons, I think, either up in the garage ceiling or I threw them away. But yeah, he was a beauty, and I sold him to a lady over on the road to Troy. Burlington, yeah, over Burlington area. And she took him and made a competitive trail horse out of him, which means 25 miles at a time.
Wow.
Going through the woods, opening up gates, closing gates,
Mm-hmm.
Going over logs, and so forth. And she went up and down the East Coast with him, and I think she won first place in one of the shows up north. She did very well with him, and I believe that's the kind of horse that he was. He liked competition.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he liked competition, and then she sold him to a guy up in New York State who trained him for as a penning horse, if you know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
So he was used as a penning horse. Today he would be, I mean, he's dead now because that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And my first horse didn't die until she was 37. And that's usually 18 years of age is the maximum.
Yeah.
But my horse, Joni, she lived to be 37. I had, before she died. So, and we made a trip. I got to tell you this one. We made a trip when I was on sabbatical. We made a trip down through Louisville and down in that area, and we looked at a lot of horse farms.
Down the Bluegrass State.
Yeah, and it is beautiful. It's just all these horse farms with the black fence around the green fields. It's just gorgeous. And we went to Calumet Farms, if you ever heard that. And we couldn't get in there. And then so we drove to Claiborne Farms. And the entryway was a big stone entryway, wings, with
Mm-hmm.
oak trees lying down. It was beautiful.
Like a big plantation kind of deal.
Yes. And, but there was a sign there that says, Sunday, no visitors. And so I said, oh, shucks. So we pulled out and went on out to the road, just a little ways down the road where there's a red brick house. And there's a man and his wife and the kids were out in the front yard. They were playing. And I said to Pearl, I said, I bet that house and that guy works for Claiborne Farms. And so we went on out the road, turned around, came back, and he was still there. I said, Pearl, I'm going to stop and ask. Oh, you're obsessed. with horses? I said, yeah, I know. And I said, but he said, yeah. I said, there's a sign there. It says, no visitor Sunday. He says, ignore that. Just drive down the lane. He says, there's a little bungalow there that a groom stays in. There's a ding ding bell. He says, just ring the bell and he'll come out and he'll show you some horses. So I did. We did. And he said, you want to see some horses? And I said, yes, sir, I would like to if I may. So he come with me. So we go into this barn, which is blacktop the whole way through. Knotty pine boards up, then wrought iron on the stalls. They're up. And we went in, and their first stall on the left, I just looked over. I didn't bother seeing the name tag because my eye caught the horse. I said, man, that is a gorgeous horse. He said, that's Secretariat. I said, the Secretariat? He says, that's him. He says, I'll get him out for you. So he reached up and got his halter, took him out of the stall. We went outside, stood, and I had a hold of the halter. I kissed the horse on the neck and on the nose. And I said, I'm never going to wash my lips.
Just witness history right there, standing in front of you.
There was the greatest racing horse of all time.
Yep.
And they have proven that, the sports world, the horse world, because they have lined up film of races the same amount of time, like it was a 1.25 mile race.
Mm-hmm.
They put him up against Whirl Away, Seabiscuit, some other of the greats, and he beat them all by 2 seconds.
Wow.
And that was, fantastic. It was I got to hold the halter.
The greatest racehorse ever to live.
That ever lived up until this time. And he's just a fantastic. And he loved people. He was so gentle,
Mm-hmm.
That I probably could have hopped on him.
Took him for a ride.
Yeah.
How would that have made you feel?
I said, I think I probably could have. I didn't go that far. But that was, so I've loved horses all my life. And but I finally got out of the horse business then. But even to this day, I don't miss the Kentucky Derby. I don't miss the Triple Crown races. And I can turn it on right now, the TV, and pick up horse racing.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I don't know, Channel 3 something.
Do you bet on the horses ever?
My wife and I used to go up to Towanda Downs
Mm-hmm.
on a Sunday afternoon and harness racing.
Yeah.
And I put a $2 bet down on a horse.
If you never have bet on horse racing, there's quite an education you need to get before you can even go put money down on one, because there's a million ways you can bet, and it's a whole niche itself.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you think, I'm just going to go put $2 down on number 2. Well, you can, but there's a million other things you can do. It's kind of like sports betting is the same kind of deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can play the trifecta. You can play. I usually box them. Horse 2 and 4.
Yeah.
They got to come in that order.
Yep.
And
what is it? Win,
play, show.
Show. Yeah. That's so funny to me.
Yeah. I didn't win very much.
But it's just fun to go watch.
Oh, yeah,
Have your money
yeah.
on the line, and
Yeah, because I have sat behind the sulky. It was the old veterinarian who had a Doctor. What was his name? Pearl veterinarian
Sullivan,
and
Lynch.
Dr. Lynch.
Yep.
And Dr. Lynch had a little barn down in South Towanda
Yep.
Flats.
My grandpa was friends with him.
It was. And I got to be friends with him, and he, mainly because it took a lot of dogs and cats to,
Yeah.
type of thing. And I went down to his horse barn, and at that time he had like 5 horses. He had horses running at the meadows.
Yeah.
He and Sullivan were in together, along with Dean Meredith.
Yep.
And in fact, that's where the little horse track was.
Yeah.
And I'd go down there in the morning, and Dr. Lynch taught me how to hitch up a harness and a buggy, and I would take one of his horses and
Get on and put some laps in, huh?
I put some laps. I worked his horse out, and
He was happy, you were happy, the horse was happy, everybody was happy.
I was happy. I was happy as the lark. I was sitting behind that. Boom, 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 boom. And he said, "Now, you'll know when the horse is warmed up. Just look at his rear end, and the blood veins coming down across his rear end, they'll start popping out.
Mm-hmm.
And so when those start popping out, or are popped out, then you can speed them up and go faster." And so I'd be, watching for those veins to pop out. And yeah, you're going 20, 25 mile an hour around that track,
Mm-hmm.
and the wind's blowing, and the jacket's blowing, and yeah, that was like 6:30 in the morning, and that was just me, the horse, Mother Nature, and the good Lord, and that was so.
It's a great thing, huh?
Oh, that was great. That was great.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another, experience that I wouldn't have had if I had not come to Towanda.
Yep.
Because I landed in Towanda. I like Towanda. I've had some good experiences
Mm-hmm.
here.
Now you're from Western PA. When you moved here, did you have the Western PA slang? Did you say yins? Do you still say yins?
Ewans. Ewans.
You have a pop?
Yeah, we have pop. We don't have
Soda.
soda. We have pop.
Yep.
Yeah, we drink pop. We don't drink soda. We drink pop.
Yep.
Yeah, and you don't clean up the house. You red up the house. RIDD.
Yeah.
You red up the house. Yeah, my wife. Or she's a nurse, and she was on duty one night. I think it was Fort Sill, Oklahoma. The lady said, "What are you going to do tonight when you go home?" She said, "I'm going home and red up the house." "You're going to paint your house red?" "No, I'm going to red up the house." "What do you mean?" "I'm going to clean up the house." I never heard that out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, even I have an accent. Pearl has an, and we've been told that. And we've been someplace and talked to total strangers, and
They go, "You're from
"You're from Western Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
aren't you?" Yep. "Why?" "Because you have an accent."
Yep. People from Buffalo have an accent too.
Do they?
Yep. And it's so funny that we live within 150 miles of these places, and there's probably 7 or 8 different dialects,
Yeah,
which is just mind-boggling, really.
yeah, it is. It is.
Like Coach Quiggs lived down here for 60 some years, and he still has a New England accent, which is just classic and great. But a lot of people get rid of that goes away, or they try to make it go away, but
Right.
he just owns it. It's great.
Yeah, it's if you talk about an area, it's area.
Yeah.
Anything that ends with an A is an R.
Yeah.
I never said anything to him about it.
Well, now he's gonna know that you know.
Sorry, Quig. Sorry. I still love you.
If you could say something to the people you taught, the people you coached, what would you say to them?
The pleasure and the joy has all been mine. It really has. I look back over my life, and there's very, very little that I would change.
That's amazing.
I had a great childhood. I had to me a great high school career. I had a good college career. In high school, I set several goals for myself, and one of those goals was to marry the girl that I started dating when we were juniors in high school, and we've been together for 71 years. The other goal was to go to college, and the third goal was to play college football, and fourth one was to coach high school football. And I was able to achieve each one of those thanks to my God above, and I wouldn't change much of anything.
Mm-hmm. And how old are you today?
I'm 88.
88. So you're a couple years older than Quig. I think he's 86.
Yes. He was a great coach, though. Great coach.
Yep. You guys are both great human beings, and it's an honor and a privilege for me to be able to do this with you guys.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah,
So now, doing this makes you guys live forever in several generations. So no matter what happens, somebody can always say, "Hey, do you remember Jack Fox?" And they can pop on YouTube, and right there you are. And that's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
Because how many people in your life would you like to be able to pop up YouTube and see a video with them in? Good many, I bet. I know I would.
Yeah. The only one that I've ever done that to, because the only one I knew that where I could do that was Steve Casey.
Yep.
And I could pull up the Virginia Tech. I could pull up the Peach Bowl, Steve Casey and the Peach Bowl.
Yep.
On YouTube, and there he is.
Yep.
And I'm looking at him, and he's still wearing number 7. And I'm looking at him and watching him and his mechanics. Nothing ever changed.
Yep.
That's him. That's him. Nothing's ever changed.
Huh.
But he went on to coach.
Yeah.
In Arizona. He coached at Yuma High School. He coached at Horizon High School. And I saw him at Horizon. He had me down on the field with him. And I stayed out of his way. He was at 135-yard line. I was at the other one. I didn't want.
Yeah. Yep.
And so I was on the sidelines with him, and when they were warming up in practice time before the game, he came over to me and he said, "Hey, Coach, I told the team that you were going to give the pregame pep talk."
Oh, the pep talk.
And I said, "You did what?" He said, "I told the team you were going to give the pep talk before the game." It was like 5 minutes before. Wow.
So how'd that go? It went great because you just open your mouth and stuff comes out. Because you've been doing this for so long that it's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah. And we were, and he was playing. He was playing Chandler High School that game, and Chandler is a powerhouse out there. It's an absolute powerhouse. And those schools out there are big high schools, 4,000 in a school, 2,500 to 4,000. When you get to 4,000, they build a new high school.
Mm-hmm.
So we went in the locker room, and I said, "Hey guys," no, I didn't. I really didn't know what to say because he caught me by surprise, and I didn't have.
That's when the best speeches happen, though.
I don't think this time. I said, "Gentlemen, there's only two things you do in football: hit man, get ball. Hit man, get ball." And when they left the locker room, that's what they were yelling.
Yep.
Hit man, get ball. Hit man, get ball. They went out. We received the kickoff. We ran it back 95 yards for a touchdown against a powerhouse, Chandler. Holy smokes. And I thought, ooh.
Did that get your adrenaline running?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That's what makes high school football so great. Because no matter how old you get, that thrill never goes away.
No. But after that first touchdown, we played them even the first half. After that, Chandler coach must have gotten after his kids. He must have chewed them out. Because when they come out the second half, they chewed us up.
They were a different ball team.
They were a different ball team. Yeah. And we lost that game. But for one of your former players to invite you down on the field and to take you into the locker room and put the trust in you to speak to the team before the game, that shows you just how close he and I are.
Absolutely.
We are close.
Yep.
And
that's an amazing story that you coached him in high school, and this many years, 50 years later, you guys are still great buddies. Man, that's amazing.
Yeah, we are close. In fact, he called last week, I think like 2 weeks ago. He called, and do you remember what Steve called for, Pearl?
No, I don't.
He called me for some reason, and we chatted for quite a while, and but like I say, we see each other almost every Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Once in a while he's not there, but most generally he was there last Friday, and if we have a little extra time left over, and the guy out there, his name is Andre, we just call him Dre Rogers. He leads our group. He's a member of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. He has been here. He has spoken to at the Baptist Church, and just a fantastic guy. He's a basketball coach. By trade, he was a X-ray technician,
Mm-hmm.
and he just felt the call from the good Lord to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
And he prayed about it and so forth, and he said, the Lord was speaking to him. He said, I want you to teach young people. And so he joined the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and he goes around to high schools and to coaches and to administrators, and he witnesses to them. He has what they call huddles, HUDL, and they are groups of students, anywhere from 6th grade on up, and he'll talk to them, about the Bible. He was here and he talked to our team one night when Coach Dossie was still coaching, and he will talk to certain administrators. It's what's the last high school Steve was at, honey?
Sandra Day O'Connor.
Sandra Day O'Connor High School. Steve coached there for his last 3 years, and he says the administration and the whole school. He says it's like walking into St. Agnes
Mm-hmm.
or a Catholic school. They're all on the same page,
Mm-hmm.
and Dre goes into those, talks to a lot of administrators and a lot of kids, and so he's our leader on Friday morning Zoom.
Cool.
Yeah, and then there's Ricky Johnson, who's he's in real estate now, but he was a wrestling coach, and there's Paul Whitson, who's a retired wrestling coach, had by his God, he had many districts, regional and state champions, and he retired, and then his son picked up the head job at a local school out there and needed an assistant, so he hired his dad. His dad's 65 years old. Hey, he'll complain when he gets on every once in a while. He says, man, I'm never going to learn this. I got to quit wrestling with these kids.
Yeah.
I said, I can't do these push-ups anymore. Yeah, that's been fantastic. There's very little that I would change.
That's a great life then.
Yeah, I have been richly blessed. Yes, that one out there, man,
Mm-hmm.
she's just tremendous. Just tremendous. Yeah, but.
And if you come to a Towanda football game, you can look down on the visiting sideline and you can see him down there watching the game from the sideline.
Trying to get out of the way.
It has to be good weather because he's not coming out if it's really cold. Although I did see you this year when it was chilly.
Yeah.
For a playoff game, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. That's right. Yeah.
Quig always says you're a fair weather fan, so when you showed up for that game, I was like, ah.
Yeah. You know, I've heard him say, he'll be talking to the chain gang.
Yeah.
Nah, he's not going to be coming. And then they'll look up the field, and
Yep.
say, well, hey, well, how be doing? Yeah, here he comes. I didn't think he'd show up.
Yeah.
And their Quick is in shorts.
Yep. 86 years old, taking pictures in shorts.
Yeah, Yeah. But a great guy.
What great people to go to be on that sideline with you guys is just an amazing thing.
Well, I appreciate that.
We want to thank you for your time today, and we appreciate you, and we appreciate everything you've done for football and life. Like, you've helped people out and motivated them and made a lot of great people out.
Well, it's been a good life. Yeah, it's been a good life, and like I said, I wouldn't change very much, and I've been richly blessed. And so Towanda's my home. We've been here since 1961, and we're not going anywhere. You know?
Well, it's good. It's an honor to know you, and we appreciate you. Thank you for doing
My
this.
pleasure. My pleasure.
For PA Football News, I'm Lindsey Bennett. This is Jack Fox, and we'll see you next time.